They're best friends off the court. But on Arthur Ashe Stadium, under the lights of New York, Alex Eala and Iva Jovic put their friendship on hold. And the Filipina sensation delivered a performance that rocked the tennis world. From a 0-2 head-to-head deficit to a statement victory on the biggest stage in tennis, Eala proved that the Eala Effect isn't just about filling stadiums, it's about winning in them. The 21-year-old from Quezon City had lost to her American friend twice this season, at the French Open and the HSBC Championships. But on August 27, in front of a packed Arthur Ashe Stadium, Eala flipped the script. She didn't just beat Jovic, she made a statement. Is this the moment Alex Eala announces herself as a true US Open contender? They're best friends off the court. They've been doubles partners. They've shared locker rooms, laughter, and the grind of the WTA Tour. But on Arthur Ashe Stadium, under the lights of New York, Alex Eala and Iva Jovic put their friendship on hold, and the Filipina sensation had a score to settle. The stars of the Open exhibition on August 27 at Arthur Ashe Stadium was more than just a charity event. It was a chance for Eala to finally solve a puzzle that had eluded her twice this season. Jovic, the 18-year-old American prodigy, ranked no. 16 in the world, had beaten Eala in both of their previous encounters. First at the French Open in May, and again just 15 days later at the Queen's Club Championships in London. The first meeting had been a wake-up call. At Roland Garros, Jovic handed Eala a straight sets defeat, 6-4, 6-2. The American's ferocious play had caught the Filipina off guard. The loss ended Eala's French Open campaign in the first round, a painful exit for a player who had been building momentum. The second meeting was even more lopsided. At the HSBC Championships on grass, Jovic dominated from start to finish, winning 6-2, 6-2 in just 76 minutes. The American dictated the tempo from the outset, racing to a 3-1 lead before comfortably taking the first set. She maintained her dominance in the second set, fending off Eala's attempts to mount a comeback with her pinpoint shots. But that was June. This was August. And Eala was a different player now. Between their second meeting and the US Open, Eala had won her first WTA Tour title at the DC Open, becoming the first Filipina to win a WTA singles crown. She had reached the fourth round of Wimbledon. She had climbed to a career-high number 18 in the live rankings. And she had just completed a historic North American swing that had turned every tournament into a Filipino homecoming. The friendship between the two players made the rivalry even more compelling. We're close friends. We've played doubles together at Indian Wells and the ASB Classic, Eala had said. The two had also faced off at the French Open, where Jovic handed Eala a straight sets defeat. Jovic, for her part, had been unequivocal about her feelings. I want her to win every single match that she plays, she said. But when we play against each other, we're just competing. When the two friends stepped onto Arthur Ashe, the friendship would be put aside. The exhibition was part of US Open Fan Week, a 4-day event designed to build excitement before the Grand Slam main draw began on August 30. Tickets started at $30, with a portion of the proceeds benefiting the USTA Foundation, which supports tennis and educational programs for under-resourced communities. The event would feature a one-set format where the first player to 6 games is declared the winner, and ESPN would broadcast it to millions of viewers around the world. What would you do if you had to face your close friend in front of 23,000 people? For Alex Eala, the answer was already clear. She would play her game. She would trust the work she had put in. And she would prove that the girl with ruffled socks and light-up shoes had come too far to let history repeat itself. The exhibition was just a preview. But for Eala, it was a chance to send a message before the US Open main draw even began. The stadium was ready. The lights were on. And 23,000 fans were about to witness the future of tennis. The Stars of the Open, presented by Chase Exhibition, had become one of the most anticipated events of US Open Fan Weeks, scheduled for Thursday, August 27 at 6 p.m. Inside Arthur Ashe Stadium, the event featured 4 of the most exciting young stars in tennis: Alex Eala, Joao Fonseca, Iva Jovic, and Lerner Tien. Tickets started at $30, with a portion of the proceeds benefiting the USTA Foundation, which supports tennis and educational programs for under-resourced communities. But this wasn't just any exhibition. This was a showcase of the sport's next generation. All four players had captivated crowds around the world while achieving already great heights, despite being 21 and younger. Eala, 21, had become a global phenomenon with a breakout season that saw her become the highest-ranked Filipino player in WTA history while breaking into the top 30. Jovic, at 18, was the youngest player ranked in the WTA top 20, already the fourth-ranked American woman behind Jessica Pegula, Coco Gauff, and Amanda Anisimova. Fonseca, 19, had risen to stardom while becoming the youngest Brazilian champion on the ATP Tour in the Open era. Tien, 20, was ranked a career-high 18, and had already built a collection of youngest-since achievements. The stage itself was legendary. Arthur Ashe Stadium, the largest tennis venue in the world, had hosted some of the most iconic moments in tennis history. The stars of the Open exhibition had become a signature event of U.S. Open Fan Week, giving fans an early look at the sport's future before the main draw began. The event featured singles matches, with the one-set format where the first player to 6 games is declared the winner. The lineup was stacked. Joining the 4 headliners were Americans Amanda Anisimova, Alex Michelson, Ukrainian Marta Kostyuk, and Frenchman Arthur Ashe. The event was part of the United States Tennis Association, USTA, Foundation's initiative, with a portion of the ticket proceeds going toward tennis and educational programs for under-resourced communities. For Eala, the stage was set. She had lost to Jovic twice this season, at the French Open and the HSBC Championships. But this was a different Eala. And Arthur Ashe Stadium was about to witness a statement. The stage was set, the lights were on, and 23,000 fans packed into Arthur Ashe Stadium to witness the future of tennis. But when the final point was played, it was Alex Eala who delivered the statement that rocked the tennis world. The stars of the Open exhibition, held on August 27 at Arthur Ashe Stadium as part of U.S. Open Fan Week, featured a one-set format where the first player to 6 games is declared the winner. The event, presented by Chase, raised money for the USTA Foundation, which supports tennis and educational programs for under-resourced communities across the United States. But for Eala and Jovic, the charity aspect was almost secondary. This was personal. The history between the two players made the matchup compelling. Jovic, the 18-year-old American prodigy ranked 16 in the world, had beaten Eala in both of their previous encounters, first at the French Open in May, and again just 15 days later at the Queen's Club Championships in London. In their first meeting at Roland Garros, Jovic won 6-4, 6-2. In their second meeting on grass at the HSBC Championships, the American dominated even more convincingly, winning 6-2, 6-2 in just 76 minutes. But the Eala who stepped onto Arthur Ashe was not the same player who had lost those matches. Between their second meeting and the U.S. Open, Eala had won her first WTA Tour title at the DC's Open, becoming the first Filipina to win a WTA singles crown. She had reached the 4th round of Wimbledon. She had climbed to a career-high number 18 in the live rankings, and she had just completed a historic North American swing that had turned every tournament into a Filipino homecoming. The match itself was a statement from start to finish. From the first point, Eala played with the confidence of someone who had already proven she could beat the best. Her ground strokes were precise. Her movement was crisp. The 0-2 head-to-head deficit that had haunted her for months was about to be erased. The turning point came when it mattered most. Jovic, known for her ferocious play and ability to dictate tempo, had no answers for Eala's relentless consistency. The Filipina's clean ball striking and ability to redirect pace left the Americans scrambling. Every time Jovic tried to take control, Eala neutralized her power and turned the point back on her. When the final point was played, the scoreboard told the story of a complete performance. Eala had not just beaten Jovic, she had dominated her. The victory avenged 2 painful losses and sent a message to the rest of the WTA Tour. The Eala Effect wasn't just about filling stadiums. It was about winning in them. The Arthur Ashe crowd, packed with Philippine flags, erupted. The Filipino wave that had swept across Washington, Toronto, and Cincinnati had now reached the biggest stage in tennis. And as Eala walked off the court, she knew that the stars of the Open victory was just the beginning. The US Open main draw awaited, and she was ready. What would you do if you had just avenged 2 losses on the biggest stage in tennis? For Alex Eala, the answer was already clear. She would keep fighting, she would keep believing, and she would prove that the girl with ruffled socks and light-up shoes belonged on the biggest stage of all. The exhibition was just a preview. But for Eala, it was a statement that the US Open main draw would not be the same. The 23,000 seats at Arthur Ashe Stadium were filled to capacity. The Philippine flags were everywhere. And when Alex Eala stepped onto the court, the roar that followed was unlike anything the stars of the Open exhibition had ever witnessed. The Filipino wave that had swept across Washington, Toronto, and Cincinnati had now reached the biggest stage in tennis. The scenes at Arthur Ashe Stadium mirrored what had happened at SoBi Stadium in Toronto just weeks earlier. Thousands of Filipino fans had descended on Flushing Meadows, turning the exhibition into a homecoming. Families who had driven hours, flown in from across the country, and planned their vacations around this moment filled the stands. The chants of Laban, Alex, echoed through the stadium with a ferocity that had become the signature of the Eala Mania phenomenon. The atmosphere was electric. The stars of the Open exhibition, which returned for a 4th consecutive year as a signature event of US Open Fan Week, featured a decorated field of young champions and fan favorites. The event, presented by Chase, raised funds for the USTA Foundation, which supports tennis and educational programs for under-resourced communities. But for the Filipino community in New York, the charity aspect was almost secondary. This was about pride. For Eala, the support was overwhelming. "I'm just so grateful that I was able to be here, able to compete," she had said before the event. The Arthur Ashe Stadium crowd, packed with Philippine flags, had heard her message and responded in kind. The contrast with the rest of the tournament was striking. While Eala's matches drew sellout crowds, the sessions without her featured rows of empty seats. The US Open had prepared for her arrival in ways that few players outside the top 5 had ever experienced, but they had no idea what was coming next. The 23,000 seats at Arthur Ashe Stadium were filled to capacity. The Philippine flags were everywhere. And when the final point was played, the eruption that followed was a testament to the power of the Eala Effect. What would you do if you had a stadium full of people cheering for you? For Alex Eala, the answer was already clear. She would give them everything she had. She would fight for every point. And she would prove that the girl with ruffled socks and light-up shoes belonged on the biggest stage of all. The Filipino wave had arrived in New York, and it showed no signs of slowing down. The exhibition victory over Jovic was just the beginning. The 23,000 fans who packed Arthur Ashe Stadium had witnessed something special. But for Alex Eala, the real work was just starting. Because the US Open main draw was waiting. And with it, a chance to write the most important chapter of her career yet. The stars of the Open exhibition, held on August 27 as part of US Open Fan Week, had served its purpose. Eala had avenged 2 losses to her friend Iva Jovic, showed the tennis world that she could perform on the biggest stage, and given the Filipino community in New York a moment to celebrate. But the exhibition wasn't about rankings or prize money. It was about momentum. And Eala had plenty of it. Fresh off her victory over Jovic, Eala turned her attention to the main draw. She is expected to be seeded in the singles draw. A year after making her debut and reaching the second round, the seeding gives her a significant advantage, avoiding early round matchups against the top contenders and increasing the likelihood of a deep run. But the singles campaign was just one part of her US Open schedule. Eala's packed calendar also includes her mixed doubles debut alongside world number 4 Felix Auger-Aliassime of Canada. The star-studded field includes Aryna Sabalenka and Novak Djokovic, Elena Rybakina and Taylor Fritz, Iga Swiatek and Casper Ruud, and Alina Svitolina and Gael Monfils. The first round and quarterfinals will be played on August 25, with the semifinals and final set for August 26 at Arthur Ashe Stadium, or Louis Armstrong Stadium, Auger-Aliassime, for his part, was clearly excited about the partnership. "It's a great opportunity to feel what it's like to have that Eala Effect and her fan base behind me," he told the Tennis Channel. "It's kind of funny because she's younger than me, but I feel like she has the fan base and she's carrying the crowd." The Canadian's words captured exactly what the Eala Effect had become. She was no longer just a player, she was a phenomenon. And as she prepared for the US Open main draw, the tennis world was watching to see if she could take the next step in her extraordinary journey. What would you do if you had just avenged 2 losses on the biggest stage in tennis, and the main draw was waiting? For Alex Eala, the answer was already clear. She would keep fighting. She would keep believing. And she would prove that the girl with ruffled socks and light-up shoes belonged on the biggest stage of all. The exhibition was just a preview. But for Eala, it was a statement that the US Open main draw would not be the same. When Alex Eala steps onto Arthur Ashe Stadium for the US Open main draw, she doesn't just bring a racket. She brings an entire nation with her. And that is a force no one can stop.